And another of your stories this week was about the Buckingham Palace investigation into the bullying claims made against Meghan Markle. I think kicked into the long grass was the expression used. What is the situation there?
Yeah, so this was another exclusive in the Daily Mail last week that I wrote. And I think this is really intriguing, actually, for a number of reasons. So the bullying investigation was launched by Buckingham Palace back in March, so 9 months ago. And I've been told that they have only, the team at Buckingham Palace, and I should say the team of independent lawyers that they've got in to investigate this, have only spoken to a tiny handful of people. And they're not even confirming that the investigation is still going ahead. And no findings have been disseminated amongst anyone, either inside the palace or out. Now, I think they're quite a sticky situation, Buckingham Palace, because clearly very serious allegations were made against the Duchess in 2018. And clearly those allegations weren't investigated properly internally. So Buckingham Palace do have a duty of care to their staff to make sure that if there are lessons to be learned as to how that was handled, what do they do? But of course, if they launch a full-scale investigation into these bullying allegations, they're going to have Meghan's lawyers crawling all over them. So I think what they're going to do, and this is why I use this phrase, kicked into the long grass, I think what they're going to do is look at it from a procedural point of view. They're going to say, okay, from an HR perspective, is there anything we could have done better? Are there lessons that we can learn? Are there new policies we need to put in? As opposed to investigating whole scale the actual allegations that were made against her. Some people will think this is a bit of a cop-out, but I suspect they will feel this is the best way to navigate some very, very difficult waters.
We should reiterate that Meghan has denied all claims of bullying. Mm-hmm. But Sarah, for anyone who has been a victim of bullying, this is a bit of a disappointing situation to be in, isn't it?
It is, and I think also the claims have been fairly persistent. And I do think the palace need to look into it. I think that it would be a real dereliction of duty if they didn't come up with some sort of finality on this, because it is hanging over them a bit.
So what's happening? Are they just sort of hoping that we will stop asking questions about it? Is that?
I wonder whether they're delaying it a bit just to sort of give the Queen some space. I don't know. That would seem because it is the Queen's chap who's doing it, isn't it, Lord?
It's her private secretary,
yes.
Sir Edward Young, I think.
Edward Young, yeah. So maybe there's just a feeling that now is not the time.
Do you think, Richard, that stories like this have an impact on the perception of the palace?
Well, I think they do. I mean, it was a very interesting story that, Rebecca ran, that there's clearly some frustration that it's such a long process. And I think the people involved have very much wanted to have their say. You know, they want it to be known what's happened to them. And so I think that if the inquiry isn't comprehensive and doesn't really get to the bottom of the problem, then these people might speak out to themselves, afterwards.
I mean, the thing is, they've never had anything like this, have they, the royals? Because they've always had a very good relationship with their staff.
Maybe that explains why they're a little bit confused about how to handle it.
Exactly. I mean, their staff have always been incredibly loyal, very well treated, very happy on the whole. There's not been any sort of, there's really been no one who's broken ranks apart from that woman years ago who wrote about being the nanny, I seem to remember. But so this is new territory for them, and I think they're probably quite shocked by it. And of course it's very emotional because it's all tied up with Harry and Meghan who have left.
Well, I want to ask about them because presumably they would quite like this to be resolved as well.
Well, I mean, in America, bullying, accusations of bullying are taken very, very seriously. It's something that really does hang over people. And I think from their point of view, they'll want to get this cleared up, because otherwise it'll always be slightly swirling around, won't it?
And I think it does come from a culture clash, doesn't it? Where the royal family had always treated their staff like members of the family, really, and people would do it. The pay wasn't great, but you would do it out of loyalty, and then often you could go on to very well-paid jobs elsewhere. But then Meghan came in from a very different perspective of staff, and they're there to do a job, and it was a whole different sort of ethos for her. So I think that's where the difficulties lie.
That is all we have time for on today's YouTube show. For more royal news, views and videos, head to www.mailplus.co.uk/royals or click the link on screen now. I'll see you there.